Hello and welcome to Carlos Castaneda, the Wheel of Time, the wisdom of the shamans of ancient Mexico. From Don Juan, Tales of Power. When a warrior makes a decision to take action, he should be prepared to die. If he is prepared to die, there shouldn't be any pitfalls, any unwelcome surprises, any unnecessary acts. Everything should gently fall into place because he is expecting nothing. So Don Juan's urging us to, make that step, that advance forward, push into novelty, push into new experiences, push beyond the comfort zones, beyond boundaries, always test yourself out, be witness to the struggle at the same time, but it's through conflict, adversity that we ultimately prosper, because if we were just in the present moment all the time, sort of sitting back in Nirvikalpa Samadhi or some other high consciousness state, then we wouldn't necessarily be prepared for the challenges that were coming from angles which we couldn't see because we were so self-absorbed. So one must have a 360-degree awareness and a cutting-edge perception. I say cutting edge, or pushing at the edge, rather. A consciousness that is pushing at the edge and not avoiding things, not avoiding unpleasant feelings or even negativity, but expanding through it, not giving up, not surrendering. So when we are in that state without expectations and we're prepared to die, if we can go through that fear, ultimately let go, we can push forward into that new territory, that new ground. And of course, this is a warrior's understanding. When that being has advanced into novelty, moved beyond the limited suffering self, pitying self, extended its being beyond those boundaries, into new forms of manifestation and being and consciousness. So that's the lever. The lever is not being afraid to die, being prepared to die, actually preparing for it, not avoiding the fear, the terror, the pain or whatever, and getting to a state where you're willing to lose everything, knowing, the body, the ultimate known object, of every living being. So, a warrior as a teacher must first of all teach about the possibility of acting without believing, without expecting rewards, acting just for the hell of it. His success as a teacher depends on how well and how harmoniously he guides his words in this specific respect. So, an Agual teacher, the leader of a party of sorcerers would guide his wards, his subjects, apprentices, practitioners about the possibility of acting without believing, impeccability for its own sake, just to see what happens. Again, much of like I say, we are novices. We mustn't get into the illusion that we are masters of this, Other people might come along and call us masters, but we just laugh and say, well, I know less than you do. So, where are we again? So his success depends on how skillfully he or she, the Nagwa leader, guides his students, his followers or whatever. I don't like to use the word followers or disciples, and that sounds a bit sort of Old Testament, no, New Testament-ish. Well, even the New Testament was 2,000 years ago, let's not forget. So, but to be able to guide them in a way that is harmonious for the sake of the whole and the whole group. Because an Agwal is not simply responsible for him or herself at that level if he wants to be a teacher. So, next, Don Juan. In order to help his ward to erase personal history, the warrior as a teacher teaches 3 techniques: losing self-importance, assuming responsibility for one's acts, and using death as an advisor. Without the beneficial effect of these 3 techniques, erasing personal history would involve being shifty, evasive, and unnecessarily dubious about oneself and one's actions. So, erasing personal history is not simply like denying that the past ever existed and that we're not affected by these things. The breakup of relationships and death of a family member or death of a friend, loss of a loved one, that kind of loss, grief, all that kind of suffering that we must undergo as human beings as part of our evolutionary journey towards so-called selfhood. And erasing personal history is rather, as Leo Rutherford might put it, losing the negative effects that the past has upon the present, right? And eliminating those negative effects, these consequences. It's kind of like going back in time and removing the cause of the effect. Because if there is no cause, there's no effect. You see, because the two depend upon each other. They are mutually coexisting. Effect happens because of a cause. Something in the past. Something in the past creates something in the future. So, but in the present moment, clarity, pushing into the new, into the future, in the right way, in the most skillful and impeccable way, rather. Requires that we erase the negative effects of the past, our personal history. So that's what it means to erase personal history. simply erased when you've gone through it, examined it, cleared it out. Not by pushing it away, which just pushes it away into the shadow or the past, pushes it into a darker place where you'll not get at it. Therefore, you can't see it, you can't clear it away. It's stuck there somewhere in you. It's this old, bent, distorted program. It's conditioning, or this pattern, this habit, so on, So that's one of the techniques. Losing self-importance is another technique. By practicing not reacting in ego, in self-importance, vanity, arrogance, hubris, and various forms of self-attachment, self-grasping that keeps us entangled in this reactivity, this suffering, this constant conflict, and everything that is basically turning the world into chaos, without beauty and order. The less refined aspects of ourselves, the more savage and primitive aspects of ourselves, say. And a lot of these forces are currently ruling our planet, remember. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want to be like them? Is that really a good way to live, a noble way to live? Does it bring happiness? I mean, you have to examine these things. When you watch a soap opera about rich people, and you see that they're not happy at all, but they're just arguing amongst each other all the time, and fighting and threatening to kill one another, and sometimes killing one another as well. We have to ask ourselves, is that an intelligent, harmonious way to life? What about the spirit? What about the soul? Because you can't avoid anything in the soul. You have to go through it. And we can't get to that innermost essence if it's obscured by self-importance. Self-importance about acquiring things to bolster its image, acquiring status, recognition, fame, the ultimate project of the ego's immortality project. If only I were famous, if only I were rich, then I would be happy. But then people would still be starving in Africa, and wars would still be going on, and people would still be building nuclear weapons, and you're still having to live in a world where people have problems, and you're still going to get affected by those problems if you haven't worked on your self-cultivation. Doesn't matter how many things you have, or what your social status is. Ultimately, these things won't help you in the warrior's path, in the journey. One ultimately has to look within, be an outsider, revolt against this stupidity, this ignorance in ourselves. So lose self-importance. The next thing is to assume responsibility for one's acts. Being responsible means being accountable, and in a sense, everything that happens to you is your fault. So we have to become aware of what's the most impeccable way to act. By impeccable, I mean that's healing and energizing towards the whole, which means being kind and loving towards others, loving one another, and loving the planet, because a person that loves the planet can't do these stupid things, these ignorant things in the name of science. Build these spaceships and nuclear arsenals, submarines, tanks, and warships, and all that. That's a stupid man's war. That ends up with the depopulation of the planet and the extinction of life as we know it. And the spirit's not likely to have a word in creating such a stupid idea again as human beings. We would be passed off as a bad experiment. No, we don't want to go that road. We've gone far enough down that path, and well, look where it's got us. Science, academia. Well, it's got us so far and so good in some respects. Human cultural institutions and great architecture and art and literature and all the things that humans are good at. And then you have the other side of it as well, the great military machines and the bombing and the endless violence and conflict. And that's not to judge human beings. Like I say, we're still in a very archaic state of being in relation to the vastness of life itself. So we have to take into account the whole, which includes the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, human beings, nature, the global consciousness, the cosmic awareness, other planets, possibilities, dimensions, all to be explored. But we need a vehicle of exploration. And if we destroy ourselves, if we are no longer incarnated into this form, then what form will we be incarnated into? Let's hope that it's a conscious form. Otherwise, we're going to have to start all over again. And who wants to do that? Starting all over again, just wiping the slate clean after 100,000 years of chaos, and So assume responsibility for your acts. Show up. Do the noble thing in a world that's becoming increasingly irresponsible, ignoble in a lot of ways. And the third is using death as an advisor. Always being aware that we're around for a very short time. What is your legacy going to be? What is your path going to be? What choices are you going to make with the knowledge that life is very short? A brief candle, a spark, should light up existence and not darken it. Thanks.